The doorbell rang while Armand was still at work, and as I accepted a small package, I felt an unexpected wave of uneasiness. Instead of opening it in the kitchen, I carried it to the bedroom and quietly hid it in the wardrobe. Inside was only a sweater I had ordered, yet it wasn't the purchase that troubled me. It was my urge to hide it. Standing there with the box cutter in my hand, I wondered when hiding receipts had become easier than facing my own feelings. My name is Clara, and that day I realized the real problem wasn't the money I spent, but the quiet dishonesty I had begun telling myself about it. That evening, Armand came home as usual, and although dinner was warm and cheerful, my thoughts kept returning to the hidden package. After Mira fell asleep, I held the new sweater, but the excitement quickly faded into quiet guilt. Instead of saving the receipt, I folded it into a tiny square and hid it without even thinking. The next morning, I saw the purchase in my banking app but closed it because I wasn't ready to face what it meant. While grocery shopping, I put back a scented candle, unsure whether I truly wanted it or was just trying to ease my exhaustion. That night, I found several old receipts and realized I had been hiding more than purchases. I had been hiding my guilt. Looking at those receipts, I finally wondered if the hardest thing to face had never been the money, but the feelings behind it. After finding those receipts, I noticed I no longer asked if I needed something, only whether Armand would find out. I realized Armand had never judged my spending, which made it even harder to understand where my fear came from. Deep down, I knew the real difference between buying what I needed and buying comfort for an exhausted heart. One afternoon, I deleted a flash sale notification after asking myself why I really wanted to shop. I wasn't free from temptation, but for the first time, I questioned whether I wanted the item or simply needed relief. As the day went on, I noticed my impulse to shop always appeared when my mind felt the most overwhelmed. Looking back at my calendar, I saw the pattern clearly. My guilt-filled purchases happened on the days I was most exhausted and had the least time for myself. A few days later, Mira happily pushed a little shopping cart while we picked up groceries together. A cream-colored mug caught my eye, but this time I paused before reaching for it. When Mira asked why I didn't buy it, I simply said I wanted to think about it first. I realized I often made quick purchases, while the guilt lasted far longer than the excitement. By the time we got home, I had forgotten about the mug and felt an unexpected sense of relief instead. That night, I spread out my old receipts and began seeing the stories behind each purchase, not just the amounts. I realized my real struggle wasn't shopping too often. It was rarely understanding what I was feeling before I spent the money. Life looked the same on the outside, but inside I could feel something quietly beginning to change. Every time I opened my wallet, the receipts reminded me of feelings I had tried to hide. I spread them across the table, and together they told a story far bigger than any single purchase. I realized I wasn't buying things as much as I was searching for comfort that never seemed to last. For a moment, I understood I had been soothing myself the only way I knew, repeating the same cycle again and again. That evening, watching Armand and Mira laugh together made the small secret I carried feel even heavier. Before bed, I read every bank transaction without looking away, facing the truth instead of avoiding it. A few days later, Mira brought home a writing assignment that I thought would be simple, but it became something much deeper. That evening, she carefully finished her work while I quietly made dinner beside her. When I read what she had written, I found myself reading it twice before quietly stopping. Mira asked if honesty really makes a heart feel lighter, and I said yes while realizing I needed that truth too. After she fell asleep, I held the hidden receipts and understood the guilt had become heavier than the spending itself. My tears weren't about the money or Armand. They came from being tired of pretending everything was fine. I sealed the receipts in an envelope labeled "Time to Stop Hiding," and for the first time, I stopped hiding from myself. The next morning, I looked at the envelope of receipts and realized the real weight came from the stories I had been carrying alone. I opened a notebook, wrote one simple question, and slowly uncovered what I had truly been searching for through spending. I realized I had expected money to provide the comfort that only rest, attention, or honest conversations could give. As I reread each receipt, I remembered the emotions far more clearly than the things I had actually bought. At the bottom of the page, I wrote weekly Honesty Audit, a reminder to gently reflect instead of judging myself. I also created the guilt-free pocket, a small monthly fund I could spend without hiding receipts or feeling ashamed. That morning, I finally understood that honesty isn't about never making mistakes. It's about no longer pretending everything is fine. That night, after Mira fell asleep, I asked Armand to join me at the table where 2 cups of tea and an envelope of old receipts were waiting. I admitted I had been hiding shopping receipts, and the room grew quiet as Armand listened. I explained I wasn't afraid of his anger. I had been hiding from my own guilt over unnecessary purchases. After looking through a few receipts, Armand smiled and said the secret felt much bigger to me than it did to him. Holding my hand, he told me he never judged my worth by those receipts, and I finally felt the weight begin to lift. I shared my ideas for a weekly honesty audit and a guilt-free pocket, and we agreed that honesty deserved its own place in our budget. That night, we didn't argue about money. We simply promised never to let it become something that made us hide from each other. Sunday mornings changed as Armin and I spent 15 quiet minutes together doing our weekly honesty audit. We laughed when we admitted the things we had almost bought, realizing honesty made money conversations feel lighter. We created a small guilt-free pocket, giving ourselves room to enjoy little purchases without hiding or feeling guilty. To my surprise, I wanted fewer impulse purchases because I no longer felt the need to quietly comfort myself with shopping. One afternoon, I left a new book on the table without hiding it, and Armand simply asked if I was enjoying it. When Mira saw me pin a shopping receipt on the board, she smiled and said my heart seemed lighter. I still enjoyed buying things sometimes, but now I brought home peace instead of guilt, because every purchase was a choice I truly understood. If I could speak to my younger self, I wouldn't say, spend less. I'd simply say, don't be afraid to face yourself honestly. Money never made me feel guilty. The real burden was hiding the story behind every purchase until honesty finally brought relief. The guilt-free pocket taught me that enjoying what I earn isn't wrong. And the weekly honesty audit reminded me that growth begins with honesty. I now believe financial security is more than a healthy bank balance. It's the peace to face every financial decision without fear. Before we end today, I'd love to ask you, have you ever hidden a purchase or felt guilty after shopping? And why do you think that happens?